At T-Mobile, our critical mission is providing unparalleled 5G coverage for when connectivity is mission critical. Introducing T-Priority, America's best 5G network experience for first responders, even in times of congestion. More capacity, faster speeds, better coverage. T-Priority from T-Mobile, built for tomorrow's emergencies, ready today. Discover more at t-priority.com.
For qualifying organizations on eligible rate plans, coverage not available in some areas and may be impacted by emergencies.
Hi, and welcome to the 10-Minute Food Truck Training Podcast. My name is Bill Moore. I am a food truck business coach and author of Food Truck 101, Beginner to Winner, and the forthcoming book, Food Truck 201. This podcast is all about helping you start and grow your food truck business. Today, I want to talk about food cost. And one of the things I want to talk about is using the proper terminology. We're a food business, and we use food business-related terms. One of the ways you can tell that somebody's a researcher or a business school educated person trying to act like they know something about food trucks and restaurants is the type of terminology that they use. They'll use things like prime cost or margin or markup, when what they actually mean is food and labor cost, gross profit, and menu price. And I know you're thinking, big deal, it's just semantics. And to an extent, that's true, but it also relates to the person actually being an expert or a pretender. I just watched a video that was produced by somebody pretending to be an expert, and they recommend a 70% target margin. And remember, target margin is food truck talk, meaning gross profit. And in the exact same breath, they're saying, you got to have that 70% target markup. They complain about 3 times cost and how it yields a lower price. Well, duh. That's called math. Expecting 3 to equal 4 and then trying to use that to prove that you have the superior methodology is just dumb. It shows how little that person understands what's being discussed, because 70% markup is not 3 times cost. 3 times cost is a 67% target margin. Notice the difference. 70%, 67%. He even recommends using some app to help you figure out your material cost. And that particular app, if you were to input a 67% margin, it would give you the exact same price as if you took your material cost times 3. Math's funny that way. It's the exact same way that multiplication and division are used to double check each other. Something that you probably learned in the 2nd grade, and as soon as you got out of high school or college, forgot it. Here's the interesting thing using multiplication to achieve that target 70% margin, which is still way too low for gross profit before labor, but hey, that's a whole nother debate. But remember, this dude says he's an expert and he can tell you 70% margin's got to be your target. You could take a product and multiply it. Ooh, multiplication. Take your cost times 3.33. Guess what you get? If you're following along, you're getting a 70% margin. Ooh, look at that. Multiplying works. And you don't need a complicated app to do that for you. You can just add the material cost, multiply it by whatever you want it to be, and then that'll give you your menu price, and you can divide it out to double check, see what the food cost is. People can handle multiplication so much easier than trying to figure a margin, which requires division of a percentage or a decimal and a couple more steps. I like to do things simply. I'm in the food business. Time is money. I don't need to make 2 or 3 different steps to figure out what my menu prices should be. See, the thing about apps is they have hidden formulas. So you're not learning how to do anything. You just know if I put in all my prices that, lo and behold, I'll have some menu price recommendation. One of the many reasons that food trucks fail is not understanding their own numbers and the math behind those numbers. If you want to make the most amount of money with the least amount of effort, start by learning the math behind your numbers. One of the first days that I was working at Whataburger, and this was in the early 2000s, I'm a brand new manager. They just hired me. They hired me on my reputation, paid me a whole bunch of money to come in and help with the store. So I go into the store, one of my first days there, haven't even been taught how to do a lot of different things on their cooking procedures and their service procedures and that type of thing. But I was listening to the conversation the managers were having, and their computer had some type of bug. It was broken down and wasn't able to be used that particular day. Their cash registers were operating, so it wasn't affecting their sales, but they couldn't figure figure out their inventory or any of the other numbers associated with their profit and loss statement. And they were facing their typical end of the week deadline where they had to turn in all those numbers to their corporate office and then discuss those with their district manager. In this particular group of people, there was the trainer, there was the store manager, there were two very long-term assistant managers, and the district manager, all standing around and throwing their hands up going, we don't know how to do this. We don't know how to manually figure our food cost and our labor cost without the aid of a computer. This was a $3 million a year restaurant, and not one person that was in charge of it could manually figure out their food cost. I told him I could do it, and luckily the district manager knew who I was and said, yeah, he can probably do it. 45 minutes later, I gave them all of their costs for the week, did a full P&L, and showed them where their profit and loss was for that particular week, as well as their labor costs, their food costs, and all the other percentages. When the computer was finally fixed, and it took 2 days for them to get the computer back up and running and get it re-imaged so that it would work the way it's supposed to work and then connect to the POS system, the numbers I had figured by hand with a calculator and a piece of paper were proven to be accurate. And that's all because I understand the formulas and I understand how the math works. That's what I want to teach you guys. I don't want you using apps and things where you have no clue how the math works, because the app's not going to come in and help you chase down a food cost problem. The app's not going to come in and help you figure out why you're losing money. The app's just going to show you, hey dude, you're losing money, but you already know that because your bank account has nothing in it and you still have bills to pay. You've got to understand the numbers. You've got to understand the numbers intimately. You cannot use apps without understanding how they function. You can't use the terminology of generic businesses and then try to figure out and translate, how does this relate to my restaurant, my food truck, my hot dog cart? Simply can't be done. When I started in this business a long time ago, way before there were computers, we did every bit of paperwork on real paper, and we did it with an adding machine. Now, if you don't know, adding machines are actually different than calculators. They function differently. A lot of people don't know that, but those little details come from experience and expertise. So when you hear me talking about food cost, I'm talking about food cost. When I talk about labor, I'm talking about labor. I don't lump them together and call it prime cost, because that doesn't help you. It helps to obscure what number's out of whack, because if you need the two of those added together to be 50%, your food cost could be way too high. Your labor cost could be way too low, which means you're abusing your employees and giving really, really crappy service. But because you're hitting that 50% total, you don't really care. But you'll eventually go out of business because the food cost is too high and the service is too bad. So don't lump stuff together. Learn from people that actually use the terminology properly. I was taught by people like Dave Thomas. He started Wendy's. He was a KFC franchisee before that. He explained things in real terms. He didn't try to hide it underneath business terms and be super fancy. Pat Ross, who was very educated, or actually bought into Rack's Restaurants and ended up becoming the CEO of that particular chain, he talked in those exact same words as Dave Thomas. We have food costs, we have labor costs, we have controllable costs, and each one of those was broken down by their specific name. We didn't talk about prime cost or margin or markup. Those are generic business terms that you learn either in business math or some type of an accounting class. And while that helps you to pass the grade, it doesn't help you to run a business. Thank you guys so much for listening to the 10-Minute Food Truck Training Podcast. If you're finding all the information helpful in your business, please consider becoming a monthly supporter of the podcast. Just hit the support button or follow the link in the description. Every little bit does help keep us going. Join our Facebook group. It's called Food Truck Training. We got a whole bunch of awesome members at all different levels, from just brand new starting newbies to decades old veterans. They've all got your back when it comes to helping you learn about food trucks. And of course, come back again tomorrow, because you know I got plenty more to say about the food truck business and helping you and your business grow.